Hello? Where am I? Where's this? Hello? Anybody out there? This isn't funny! Hello? Anybody out there? Hello? Anybody out there? Hello? Where am I?
Hi everyone, welcome back. In the last 2 lessons, you've learned how to come up with an idea for your short film and how to develop your idea and write a script. You've also learned how to plan for shooting your film by considering things like shot size, framing, angles, and movement. And how to create the blueprint for your film called a storyboard. Everything you've done so far is called pre-production, and it's a lot of work, but I guarantee if you've taken all of these steps, your film is going to be far more successful than if you had just picked up your camera and started shooting without a plan. And now that you've done all the hard work, it's time for the fun stuff, the actual production. It's time to shoot your film. In today's lesson, we're going to talk about how to use a camera and how to record good quality sound.
Hello? Where am I?
We'll also be giving you some useful guidelines and tips on how to make sure your shoot runs as smoothly as possible. So let's get started. No matter what camera you're using, whether it's this, or this, or this, there are some basic concepts I'm going to show you that will make your footage look more professional no matter what camera you're using. First off, it's important to know your camera inside and out. You should know where all of the important parts are and understand where all of the buttons and menus are located. One part that you'll find on every camera is the lens. So on my iPhone, it's in the front here, but yours might be somewhere else, so make sure you know where it is. Another kind of obvious one is the record button. You probably already know this, but record buttons are usually indicated by a red circle. On your iPhone, it's just right in the front here, but it might be somewhere else if you're working with a different camera, so make sure you locate it. Another important part of your camera is the microphone, if you're going to be recording sound and your footage together. On your phone, the microphone is usually at the bottom somewhere here. It's important to know this so that you don't accidentally cover it up with your hand or your homemade tripod if you're recording sound. A couple of other features you can look out for is the zoom function. So on your phone, you can zoom in and out, just like this, by using 2 fingers and pushing them together or pulling them apart on the screen. But if you're working with an actual camera with a lens on the front, the zoom is usually just right on the lens and you can twist it to zoom in and out. Again, depending on what you're using, just make sure you find that function because it's going to help you when you're developing your shot sizes. Another great feature that you might want to get familiar with is the slow motion option. A lot of phones these days have an option to shoot in slow motion, which is awesome. So on your iPhone, it's usually something called slow-mo right next to the video option. But it might be different if you're working with a different phone or a different camera, so make sure you find that. Slow motion can be really fun to work with, especially maybe if you're having an action hero running away from an explosion, or maybe somebody drops something and there's this really dramatic moment and you want to watch it fall in slow motion to the floor. So play around with that and have some fun. It's a great feature and you can get really creative with it. A lot of household cameras also have the ability to capture slow motion, but it's a bit more complicated. So if you're using something like this, maybe refer to your camera manual to learn more about this function. So now that you know your way around the camera, let's talk about some important things you'll want to keep in mind when you're shooting, because it's important to know how your camera is going to deal with these things. The first really important one is focus. Have you ever watched a video and noticed that all of the footage was out of focus? It's really distracting and it's definitely a mistake that you want to avoid. A camera works very similarly to how the human eye works. Have you ever tried staring at an object and you'll notice that everything in your peripheral or behind the object is kind of out of focus? But then you can start refocusing your gaze to what's behind the object and suddenly it's the object that's blurry and the background that's clear. This is exactly what happens with a camera lens, only it's our job as filmmakers to tell the camera what to focus on. When you're shooting with a camera like this, you can usually adjust the focus right on the lens. But when you're working with an iPhone, you'll use your screen to adjust the focus. So for the iPhone, all you need to do is tap on the object that you want to be in focus. So if I put my hand here, I can tap and kind of go back and forth between what's closer or what's farther in the background. Now you'll notice that with your phone, it's usually set to autofocus, and that's the last thing you want to be happening in the middle of your take. You don't want the focus to be readjusting right in that crucial moment of your film. So you can lock the focus on your phone. I don't know if you know this, but all you need to do is, so let's say I want to focus on my hands here in the foreground and leave the background kind of blurry. So I can tap and just hold the screen on my fingers, and you'll see this AEAF lock message appear. And that means that my focus is now locked. So no matter where I move or if the light changes, the focus will stay on the subject that I selected. Pretty cool. This might be different if you're working with a different phone, but just have a look at the manual and see if you can find this feature. Bear in mind that when you navigate away from this screen, or if you turn your phone on and off, it's going to automatically reset to autofocus. So you're going to want to do this focusing before each and every take that you shoot. The next big consideration to keep in mind for every camera that you might work with is the exposure. Exposure refers to the amount of light that we allow into the lens, and it helps the camera understand how bright or dark the image should be. Our eyes do this too, but they adjust naturally to light and darkness, whereas the camera needs to be told what to do. Have you ever seen a video where part of the image was just way too bright or even completely white? This happens really often with things like the sky, and it means that the exposure was not set correctly. The same can be said for underexposed images where the footage just looks like it's way too dim and dark. We want to aim for footage that is neither too dark or too bright, and we need to adjust our exposure for every single shot. So on your phone, if you're working with an iPhone, you adjust the exposure in the same way that you adjust the focus. So again, you would tap on the object and you'll see this little sundial appear, and that usually means in addition to focusing on the object, it's also going to expose for that object. And again, just like we did with the focus, we want to lock the exposure because we don't want it changing and shifting throughout our take. So what I can do is hold down my finger on the screen again until that AEAF message appears. It's a little bit fiddly, so there it goes. Might need to give it a couple tries. And then also keep holding your finger down, and if you move it up and down until you see these lines appear with the sun kind of right in the middle, and that means you can go up or down to kind of adjust the brightness or the darkness of your image. So if you're outside, that's a really handy one to know. Again, remember to do this before every shot. Sometimes you might be shooting a scene that's got one part of the image that's really bright, like the sky, and another part that's really dark, somewhere in the shadows. And you might be wondering where it's best to set your exposure. If you have to make this choice, the general rule of thumb is that it's always better to underexpose an image than to overexpose it. And that's because a lot of the editing software that exists out there right now has some features that can really help you to adjust an underexposed image and reintroduce some light. But unfortunately, those features don't really exist for overexposed images. So if an image is blown out, there's really not too much you can do to save it. Hey guys, so we've been talking about shooting a film on your iPhone. And I've said it before, and I will say it again, you don't need any fancy equipment to make a great film. You just need a camera like the one in your phone and a little bit of ingenuity. That being said, there are a couple of bits and pieces that you can invest in or maybe put on your Christmas wish list if you're getting really serious about your filmmaking and you want to take it to the next level. And this is all just stuff, again, that goes along with the camera right in your phone. So the first thing I wanted to point out was a tripod. And I know we talked in an earlier lesson about how to DIY your own tripod. For our film, you might have noticed in our behind the scenes footage that we did invest in an iPhone tripod just to kind of help us out. It made things a bit quicker for us, so we weren't having to kind of reconfigure a new tripod throughout the entire shoot. So anywhere from 10 to 20 pounds on Amazon, get yourself a little tripod to work with. Otherwise, like I said, you can always engineer something from home. These little tripods are really, really cheap, and I think they're so great because they're just really small and lightweight. They work perfectly with any phone, and they can work just like a tripod, but you can also hook them around other things. They bend and twist on the arm, so you can hook them onto something, and you've got another tripod set up that kind of can go anywhere. You can hang it from the light fixture in your ceiling for like a top shot. I'm sure you can think of a lot of creative ways to use that, but I definitely recommend these little guys. They're really cool. Another thing that I would really recommend for filmmaking using your phone is a selfie stick. In addition to having, an amazing way to capture your wonderful selfies, these can be really great for phone filmmaking. You could do a couple different really cool shots with this. You can have kind of a walking shot of your character if you have your actor hold onto the phone and film themselves. That can be a really cool shot. Also great for top shots if you want to look down on something. So just a handy little thing. Also, this is also really great as a little stabilizer. If you're doing handheld work with your phone, I think I've mentioned before, it can look really, really shaky. And there are reasons to use this. We used a little bit of handheld work in our film unboxing. But if you're going to do that, you should have a dramatic reason for using handheld. So in our film, we wanted to use handheld because it was a really tense moment and our character was getting really nervous and scared, and we wanted the camera movement to kind of emulate the feelings of the character. So that's a great reason for us using handheld. That being said, if you want to do some handheld work but you want it to be not super, super shaky, these selfie sticks work as great little kind of stabilizers. So even just holding your phone on this rather than having it in your hand is automatically going to make it a little bit smoother. So you can do your pans or your tilts, and if you don't have a tripod, it's kind of a great second option. Then the other thing I wanted to talk about was having just an extra phone. If your phone is going to run out of storage or battery in the middle of your shoot, if you want to record sound on a separate device, these are all great reasons to kind of have a backup phone. So anybody else that's on your film set, if your friends are helping you make it or one of your friends is acting in the film, maybe ask if they're okay with you having their phone as a second device on hand. You can also run 2 cameras at once sometimes to save yourself some time. So maybe you've got your wide shot going on your phone at the back of the room, and then you can be a bit, on another angle or another shot on this phone. So it's just a good idea to have a second device on hand. I often do shoots with 2 or 3 cameras even. Another bit of kit that I really recommend if you're shooting on a phone is a battery pack. Again, you can get some really affordable ones online, and basically you probably noticed this in our behind the scenes footage. We were using this throughout our entire shoot because the phone batteries can die quite quickly, especially when you're using the video feature. So it's a really good idea to have an extra battery pack so you don't run out of battery right in the middle of your shoot and then you've got to sit there and wait for your phone to charge before you can get on with your film. You don't want that to happen. So these are really great. And then all we did was we bought a little bit of Velcro, and we just attached some Velcro to the back of our phone and to our battery pack, and then stuck them together. And then that was great. That was perfect for us. It got us through our entire day of shooting, which was several hours, and we didn't have to stop to charge our phone even once. So that was perfect. Another thing I would definitely recommend is have a pair of headphones on hand while you're shooting. I don't think in most phones you won't be able to hear the sound, so I wouldn't use them while you're recording because you're going to want to keep your ears open for any noises that might be coming in that might be interrupting your dialogue. But what it is good for is when you go to play your shots back. So if you just recorded a scene and you want to check that the sound was all clear, you can plug your headphones into your phone and play the shot back and make sure you've got good, clean sound to use. Another thing I wanted to talk about was lenses. And you might be thinking, wait a minute, my camera on my phone already has a lens, duh. It's right there in the front. This is true. And I did show you in a previous lesson that you can zoom in and out on your phone, which is great. However, you can buy additional lenses just for your phone. So you can see I've got a set here. And these can be for a couple different things. There are lenses that can allow you to have a wider field of view. There are also lenses like this big guy here that allow you to zoom in a lot farther. So that's great. And then there's also some really fun lenses you can get. This one's a kaleidoscope, just like lenses with different built-in filters. Which can be really great. Maybe you've got a scene that you want like a dreamy effect on, or maybe it's a sci-fi and you need some kind of warp speed look going on. You can do those kind of things in post, so you definitely don't need any fancy lenses, but it can be fun to experiment putting a look on your footage right in camera, and lenses are the great way to do that. So like I said, these can be really affordable. There's loads of different options online, and they usually just clip on to something just like this. And then you can just pop them on the front of your camera lens, and voila, you've got a whole different lens to use. You might have seen in our behind the scenes footage, we only have one shot in our film that we used a special lens for, and it was this lens right here, and it's a macro lens. And this allowed us to get a really close-up shot of our actor's eye right when he was in that big moment of panic. And this was really great because we noticed that just using the regular lens on the phone, when we got really close to the actor, we couldn't get it in focus and we couldn't get an extreme enough of a close-up that we wanted. So we really needed this additional macro lens to nail that perfect shot. But again, it's not something that you need. None of this is things that you need. All you need is your phone and some creativity. But it doesn't hurt to have a few extra things to help you out and just take your film to that next level. One last thing you want to keep in mind, no matter what camera you're working with, is to remember to record and stop recording. This sounds really obvious, I know, and you might be rolling your eyes at me right now, but trust me, this happens to every filmmaker at some point or another. You've just done a perfect take, and the actor's performance was brilliant, and the camera movement was just right, and the lighting was on point, and everything was great, and you call cut, and then you move to stop recording, and then you realize, oh, I never hit record, and it is the worst feeling, and I wouldn't wish it on anyone. So just make sure that you hit the record button and that you can see that little red circle appear on your screen, or whatever your camera's feature might be that indicates the camera's definitely rolling and you can call action. This same tip applies to storage space. Whether you're working with a camera and recording onto some kind of card or shooting on your phone, just make sure you've got plenty of storage space because you don't want your camera to run out of space in the middle of what may have just been the perfect take. So that's all the advice I have to give you for now about working with cameras. I'm going to hand you over to Ross, who's going to talk about recording some amazing sound to go along with your amazing footage.
I think sound is probably the most overlooked aspect of filmmaking, and often a bit of an afterthought, but it can really make or break a film. You can have the best camera, the best actors, an amazing location, but if the sound is bad, then the film can be bad. Whenever we film on location, we usually have a sound recordist and a boom operator, and they operate the microphone on an extended pole. Basically, the closer you can get to the source of the sound, the better quality it's going to be. Sound is also highly directional, so you always want the mic to be in the right position too. Obviously, this sort of equipment can be quite expensive, but there are some simple principles you can apply at home to improve the sound quality of your films. So now we're going to look at how you can achieve great sound using only your phone. So what's the difference between good sound and bad sound? Well, there's an old saying in film production which is, you only notice bad sound. This means that good sound should be invisible. So if you're watching a film, you can tell that the camera work is done well just by looking at it, but sound is a bit more abstract. So if it blends seamlessly in with the image, to the point that you don't even notice it, then it's a job well done. But if it's really distracting and you can't understand the dialogue or follow the story, then it's bad. So sound is really important. So let's look at an example.
Hello? Hello? Anybody out there? This isn't funny, hello?
So this is quite a simple shot, but my recording technique was really bad. You can hear lots of rustling and background noise, and it makes the image feel quite cheap. So now let's replay it, but this time with good audio.
Hello? Hello? Anybody out there? This isn't funny, hello?
See the difference? Lots of this can be done in editing by replacing audio with better audio, but for now let's focus on recording good location sound to begin with. The less work you have to do in editing, the better. So tip 1 is location sound. One of the first things to consider when choosing your location is the sound. You often don't really notice how noisy somewhere is until you try and film there. For example, if there was a construction site outside here, it would really distract from what I was trying to say. Even small things can make a big difference. For example, if the window was open, suddenly all the street noise blends in and it's really distracting. Likewise, if someone in the next room was playing some music, it's suddenly really annoying. Or if a dog was in the same room, barking at all the other dogs outside the window, not great. And if with all these things at the same time, you can start to see how much of a problem it is. So let's get rid of all those distractions. Much better. Sometimes background noise can be useful if it does relate to the narrative. A good rule of thumb is if you can see it in the shot, then it's okay to hear it. Otherwise the audience might be confused as to where the sound is coming from. It's impossible to find somewhere completely silent, so just try your best to avoid places with lots of inconsistent noises, like people talking, phones going off, things like that. Now let's think a bit more about recording dialogue. So that's tip 2, and that is microphone distance. So as you can see, I'm talking into this microphone just now. It's a wireless microphone which connects to the camera via transmitter. So I doubt many of you have microphones lying around at home, so let's think about how else we can record good dialogue. So the first thing I'm going to do is switch off the microphone. So now you'll only be hearing the sound recorded by the microphone on the camera. So this is pretty similar to how your phone will record it too. So you can already notice a huge difference and a huge drop in quality. First of all, my voice is much quieter than before as there's a bigger distance between the source, me, and the microphone. And the camera microphone is also less directional, so it's picking up background noise and just a bit of room tone. So how do we fix that? Well, the first step is control the microphone distance. Simply move the camera closer to the subject. It's instantly much clearer and my voice isn't competing with any background noise. So if you do want to include dialogue in your film, then it's really important when making your storyboard to use lots of close-ups for the talking scenes. That way you can always capture the best possible sound. But what if you really want to record good quality dialogue on a wide shot? Luckily we do have a few tips that can help there too. And that brings me to tip number 3, using your phone as a microphone. Nowadays we all have amazing cameras in our pockets, but they also have amazing microphones too. So if you or a friend have a second phone available, you can actually use that to record the sound separately. You can then combine the two separate files during editing. This is a process called synchronization. Some editing programs can do this automatically, but you can still do it the old-fashioned way too, and we'll take a look at that in a minute. So this method is a bit like when I was talking about using a boom microphone on location shoots. It's the same principle. So if the camera isn't able to get closer to the actor, you need to get a microphone closer to them instead. So quite a fun technique is to hide the phone on the actual person, just like you would hide the microphone. So the best spot is usually a jacket pocket with the microphone facing up. It can make a little bit of rustling, so try and keep really still when speaking. Once you've set up, all you have to do is hit record on the phone and on the camera, and once they are both rolling, it's helpful to do a clap, and that way it's easier to sync up in the editing. So this is me talking quite far away from the camera, but with the microphone on my phone recording the sound. I'll quickly show you how this works in the edit, so don't worry too much about the software at this point. I just want to give you a quick example of synchronization. So here is the video file and the separate audio file. As you can see, there is a waveform on both, so you can try and match those up by the shape. You can also just do it by ear as you watch the video. So this is me talking quite far away from the camera, but with the microphone on my phone recording the sound. So this is me talking quite far away from the camera, but with the microphone on my phone recording the sound. Tip 4 is ADR. So ADR means automated dialogue replacement. So it's kind of similar to synchronizing sound like in the previous tip, but think of it more like reverse lip syncing. This technique is mostly used when the location sound is so bad that you can't even record it with a separate microphone. So it usually involves the actor watching back the recording, usually at a studio, and then redoing their lines exactly in time so it can be replaced with high quality audio. So this is really common in big Hollywood blockbusters. If they're filming a big fight scene or a car chase, for example, there will be so much noise and chaos that it's impossible to capture clean dialogue. So the actor would then record their audio later on as a voiceover, and the editor would put them together. So, for example, let's look at this clip of me with some bad audio. My favourite sweets are chocolate Mars bars. My favourite food is fish and chips. I support Glasgow Rangers. I can now re-record the same dialogue exactly in time just by holding the phone like a microphone. It takes a little bit of trial and error, so you might need to practice quite a little bit. My favourite sweets are chocolate Mars bars. My favourite food is fish and chips. I support Glasgow Rangers. Now I can sync up the clips in editing and it sounds much better. My favourite sweets are chocolate Mars bars. My favourite food is fish and chips. I support Glasgow Rangers. My favourite sweets are chocolate Mars bars. My favourite food is fish and chips. I support Glasgow Rangers. The downside is that this could be quite a lot of work and it can be a little tricky to do it exactly the right speed and rhythm. However, it can be a nice trick for maybe a particularly noisy scene or location. Tip 5 is voiceover. So with DIY filmmaking, it can often be better to avoid too much dialogue as it's always going to be tricky to record. A good alternative can be including a voiceover or narration. So this allows you to feature high quality audio that also helps drive the story forward. Again, you can easily use your phone as a good quality microphone to record voiceover. Some tips would be balancing your phone on something, as doing it handheld can pick up quite a lot of sounds of your hands touching the microphone. And don't stand too close or the whole thing will sound a bit distorted. The main thing to watch out for is something called popping. So letters like P, B and S often create pop sounds that can distort your recording. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. Recording studios often use something called a pop shield, but it's actually quite easy to make one of these at home. All you need is a roll of sellotape, a clothes peg and some tights. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. In proper recording studios, they also have material like foams on the wall, and this helps deaden the space. So by that I mean it minimises any echo or reverberations, and it just sounds much better. A free and easy way of doing this at home is to record your voiceover underneath a duvet cover. Simple but effective. So here is the voiceover before. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. And here is the voiceover with a pop shield and the duvet padding. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. Much better.
Welcome to the maths lesson. Today we are going to do a test.
I'm so excited. I'm really good at math.
Oh my god, not again.
Dad, please stop.
James is my boyfriend.
Yeah, I am her boyfriend.
Please shut your mouth. I have to do my test.
Can anybody help me?
Everyone be quiet. Get on with your tests.
Hi Maya. I love you.
Oi! I am her boyfriend.
Sorry, no problem.
I am so jealous.
Okay, calm down.
How was your test?
Which was good. Did you cheat?
No.
What shall we eat?
Do you have stroganoff?
No, we have pasta.
No, thank you.
What's up, Jen? How was your day?
Come away, are you?
I'm your sister.
We are leaving now and you can come with us.
I'm your sister. Do not make me stay here. Let's go, James.
What are you doing? What have James done to you?
He bullied me.
Stop it or I will tell James.
I hate you. You are not on my side.
Oh my
I
god.
hate James. I hate James. I hate James.
Never told you.
Why'd you like my girlfriend?
Don't fight. She's not worth it.
I am worth fighting for. You two are in big trouble now.
Oh no, please.
I'm my friend.
I'm calling your parents now.
What have I done?
James, I am sorry.
It's okay, no problem.
I love you.
I love you too.
Hopefully that's been an interesting insight into sound production and given you some good ideas to go on. Now I'm going to hand over to Jackie, who will talk you through running the shoot and calling the shots.
If you want to make sure that your shoot runs as smoothly as possible, it's good to follow some simple procedures. First, rehearse the scene. Walk through the entire scene with your actor. Understand exactly what their action will be and where they're going to deliver their lines. This is called blocking. Next, whether you're shooting alone or working with friends, it's really important that everyone on set knows exactly when the camera starts and stops rolling. We refer to this as calling the shots. And what this means is that when you've got your shot set up and you're ready to roll, you need to call out to everyone in the room to tell them what's happening. So the first thing you should say is places or first positions, and this lets the actors know that they can get into position for the top of the scene. Next, you need to say quiet on set. This lets everyone in the room know that you're about to start shooting and they need to be quiet. Next, you can say roll camera, and this lets the camera operator know that they should hit record. The camera operator should respond camera rolling to let you know that they've heard you and that the camera is now recording. If you're recording sound, you need to repeat this step for your sound recordist. So you can say roll sound and they'll reply sound speed or sound rolling. If you're recording sound using a microphone into your camera, then you don't need to worry about that part. And now it's the moment you've been waiting for. You get to call action!
Hello?
Now your actors can start performing the scene and you're officially making a movie.
This isn't funny! Hello?
When the scene is finished, you call cut. This lets the actors know that they can stand down and that the camera operator can stop recording. You can also call cut before the scene has finished if there's been a really big mistake, like an actor forgets their line or a piece of the set falls over.
So, can you do it one more time?
It looks so cool with the reflection. Once the scene is over, you should always let the camera roll for a few seconds longer before you call cut. This is going to help you a lot when you get into the edit of your film because it ensures that you've got enough time at the end of the clip for a transition. Remember that the actors should never stop their performance and the camera operator should never stop recording until the director has said cut. Even if you think the scene is finished or that the take is unusable, it's the director's decision when to say cut. Another good tip to bear in mind is that it's helpful for the camera operator, and the sound operator if there is one, to respond by saying camera is cut or sound is cut. This lets the director know that they've been heard. A final tip that I want you to keep in mind when you're shooting is about coverage. And this means that you're making sure that you're covering all of the different shots that you had planned for your film. The most important tool to help you with coverage is your storyboard. Use your storyboard and stick to your shots. Make sure you keep referring to your storyboard throughout the shoot to keep yourself on track. Along the way, if you think of some other fun or interesting shots to throw in, then go for it, but always come back to your storyboard to make sure you don't miss anything. What if you get a nice tight shot and have him step into it right in the center, even if it's blocking it, because we've already read it. So at this point, it's about his face and stuff. And then we can also just get a pan. Also, when you're looking through your storyboard, keep an eye out for any shots that could be done in the same take. For example, in our film Unboxing, we started with a wide shot, and then we cut to a close-up, and then we cut back to a wide shot. The two wide shots are actually from the very same take. We didn't need to film two different shots. Instead, we just let the whole scene play out in the wide shot, and then we could cut back to it several more times throughout the edit. This is really helpful and saves you a lot of time when you're shooting. So be sure to have a look through your storyboard for shots that can be done in the same take. Another important note that I want you to keep in mind is to always start with your wide shot first and try to let all of the action play out in the wide shot, and then you can move on to your mid shots and your close-ups. This is good practice because it means that you can match all of the action to what happened in the wide shot, and you'll be able to avoid issues with continuity. Continuity means that everything in the scene needs to stay the same throughout all of the shots. For example, maybe the actor turns over their left shoulder in the wide shot, but then in the mid shot he turns over his right shoulder. Suddenly you've got two amazing shots, but you won't be able to cut them together in the edit because the audience is going to notice this inconsistency. Can you think of any films or TV shows where you may have noticed a continuity error? I'm sure you can. Maybe there's a door in the background that was closed in the first shot and then suddenly it's open in the next shot. This happens all the time in filmmaking, even in professional productions. So I don't want you to worry too much about it if you make a continuity mistake, but definitely try to avoid them. A good thing to do is to try to encourage your actors to remember their own actions, which shoulder they turned over, or which hand they used to pick up a prop. If your actors can repeat their performance exactly the same way every take, or as close as possible, it's going to save you a lot of headache in your edit. Another really important thing to keep in mind while you're shooting is to overlap your shots. For example, when our character approaches the box at the end of our film, we did a wide shot of him approaching the box and then a mid shot of him kneeling down to open it. In the mid shot, we actually asked the actor to start the action from the door and do the whole scene. This makes it easier when you're editing because sometimes it's really hard to start the next shot from the exact same place that the previous shot finished. It'll make the flow of the action appear more natural in the edit, and it will also ensure that you don't miss anything. This does make things a bit slower when you're shooting, but remember, it's important to take your time when you're filming. You worked really hard to get to this point, and the last thing you want to do is get into the edit and realize you forgot to shoot something.
What's going on?
We all just woke up here and after Raven found these keys, she just went crazy telling us to split up. Here, I'd rather you have mine.
It won't open!
Where did she go?
Guys, it's open!
Guys, we have to go.
We can't leave her.
We don't have time, we've got to go.
Where should we go next?
That looks like our key might fit.
Me first.
Okay.
He's gone. We need to go now.
What are you doing?
Run.
Hopefully, you now have a good understanding of what to expect during your shoot and some useful tips to guide you through the process. You're ready to go shoot your film? Well, almost. In the next lesson, we've got a few more tips and tricks just to help make sure that your film looks as professional as possible. We're going to be talking about lighting on a budget, sets, props, and costumes, and even some really cool in-camera effects that you can use to make your film really stand out. So that's all we have for today. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next lesson.